There's a moment almost imperceptible, yet decisive, when someone challenges you, calls you out, questions your character, casts doubt on your intentions. In that instant, most people react instinctively, falling back on what they've been taught to do. They defend themselves. It wasn't what I meant. You misunderstood me. That's not who I am. On the surface, it seems honorable, even logical, an attempt at fairness. But Machiavelli saw right through this. To him, this is the moment you lose, because when you explain yourself, you reveal a need to be understood, which is in truth a sign of weakness. In the arena of power, perception is everything. When you flinch, when you scramble to justify your actions, your opponents don't see a victim. They smell blood. This was the unforgiving law that Machiavelli grasped ahead of his time. The man who defends himself diminishes himself. The man who refuses to explain forces the world to defend him instead. Let's be clear, defending yourself seldom changes minds. What it does is surrender your power. When you offer excuses, you're stepping onto their turf, accepting the way they've framed the situation. Without saying it outright, you acknowledge their right to question you. And once they have that, they own the story. Even if you're innocent, you end up looking guilty. Because only the weak are quick to explain. The strong hold their silence. They let the accusation hang unanswered, untouched. Because the real move is to turn the accusation back on them. Make it a reflection. So doubt. Turn the spotlight on their motives. Make them appear emotional, obsessed, unstable. That's where true power lies. Not in explanation, but in silence and in forcing others to question themselves. The one who speaks first often surrenders control of the narrative. Machiavelli understood that whoever sets the frame, the lens through which a situation is seen, ultimately dictates the outcome. Most people rush to defend themselves, out of a desire to be understood, clinging to the belief that if they just explain enough, clarify enough, repeat themselves enough, others will finally see the truth. But this impulse doesn't come from strength or strategy. It comes from emotional vulnerability. Trick 1. Silence as a weapon. In the pursuit of power, clarity is not your goal. You're not after understanding. That's the concern of therapy. What you want is control. Power isn't earned by being transparent. It's earned by being feared, respected, and inscrutable. So when someone calls you arrogant, selfish, manipulative, if you instinctively reply, "No, you don't understand me," you've already lost. You're reacting. You're proving you care. You've handed them the reins. By justifying yourself, you sacrifice the most Machiavellian tool at your disposal. Mystery. Consider the most powerful people you've ever met. Not the loudest, not the most affable. The truly formidable ones wield silence like a weapon. Their unflinching composure makes you question yourself. When confronted, they remain still. The message is clear. He who explains, submits. He who remains silent, forces the world to wonder, to fill in the blank. And in that vacuum of uncertainty, others will often overestimate you, giving you even greater leverage. This is the real dynamic at play. When you refuse to react, you make others uncomfortable. They begin to doubt their own accusations. They search for confirmation and find only silence. Suddenly their authority wanes, while yours grows. All because you've done the one thing an emotionally driven person cannot handle. You've turned the conversation back on them. You've made them talk to themselves. And in that moment, their accusation dissipates, collapsing under the weight of its own uncertainty. That's how you shift the balance of power. Imagine this. You walk into a room and someone takes a shot, maybe about your success, your attitude. Your eyes turn to you, waiting for a response, a move. Instead, you offer nothing, no defense, no retaliation, not even a smirk, just calm, total stillness. In that moment, you become untouchable, because now everyone in the room has to ask themselves, why didn't he react? Does he know something we don't? Is he truly above this? Did that attack actually make him stronger? Just like that, you flipped the entire social dynamic. People aren't really watching the accusation, they're watching you. And silence, when paired with presence, communicates more than any justification ever could. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He didn't just study politics, he studied psychology. He knew that real power isn't about what you say. It's about what people believe you could say, but choose not to. Now here's the coldest move of all. Sometimes you don't just ignore the accusation, you invert it. If someone calls you manipulative, you don't defend yourself or apologize. Simply smile, look past them, and say, if that's how you see it, neutral, detached, unfazed. What happens? They scramble. They wanted a fight, a reaction for you to squirm. Instead, they're left holding their own weapon. Suddenly, the guilt shifts onto them. They start second-guessing their behavior, wondering if they overstepped, if they embarrassed themselves, if they look insecure. And in reality, they do. You took their energy, their attack, and made them carry it, without lifting a finger. Trick 2. The art of the precision cut. There's a moment when silence becomes unbearable. Not for you, but for the person expecting a reaction. That's when the tables turn. They thought they were the accuser. Now they look exposed, grasping for attention. While you become something far more powerful than innocence. You become untouchable. Machiavelli grasped something that most people never will. Words aren't meant to clarify the truth, but to obscure it. When someone attacks you, subtly or directly, they're trying to pull you into the fog, to drown you in emotional explanations. The more you explain yourself, the less certain, the less powerful you appear. So instead, stay silent. Let them fill the void. Watch as they overplay their hand, repeating themselves, looking desperate, emotional and unstable. That's the real game. That's control. The mechanics of social power, silence, frame control, and psychological dominance. The crowd's judgment. Calm versus rattled. When you choose silence in the face of an accusation, the dynamic shifts decisively. The crowd isn't focused on the substance of what's being said. They're watching who stays calm and who gets rattled. Social power in these moments doesn't come from proving you're right. It comes from appearing untouchable, undisturbed. Your composure puts the accuser under scrutiny, not you. Their credibility wanes as your neutrality amplifies their emotional charge. The business meeting. Turning the tables. Imagine a business meeting. Someone subtly questions your strategy. I'm not sure that's really thought through. Or he always has these bold ideas. They're testing, hoping for a reaction. Most people's move, lean in, explain, clarify, prove. Their nervousness is palpable. The room senses it. The Machiavellian operator's move. Lean back. Wait. Maybe smirk. If you speak, it's not to defend yourself. It's a redirect. Let's hear your strategy then. Suddenly the attacker is the one under evaluation. The room's focus your silence, confident, unbothered, becomes an unspoken accusation. It makes others feel small, without you lifting a finger. Romantic and personal dynamics. Controlling the emotional tempo. This tactic is even more potent in personal relationships. Suppose your partner says, "You don't care about me anymore." The average response, panic, reassurance, explanations. This validates their emotional framing, handing them control. The Machiavellian response, let the accusation hang. Don't dismiss. Don't argue. Watch as their drama echoes in the space between you. Then calmly, that's not how I see it. Short, grounded, no justification. Now they feel uncertain. They question their own tone, their reactivity. You control the emotional tempo. And in relationships, as in power games, whoever controls the tempo controls the frame. The coldest tactic, disappearing act. There's an even deeper layer. Don't just remain calm, disappear. If insulted, don't reply. Don't respond. Don't acknowledge, but don't block them either. Your absence becomes its own statement. They're left talking to no one, their attack dissipating into emptiness. This is true psychological dominance, making their words meaningless by refusing to engage at all. The core principle, power isn't about being right, It's about being untouchable. When you refuse to play by their rules, when you let silence or absence speak for you, you force others to interrogate their own motives and emotions. You don't win by explaining. You win by controlling the frame, the tempo, and the very space in which the interaction occurs. That's the essence of Machiavellian social strategy, making others doubt themselves, while you remain always just out of reach. Let your absence act as a mirror. Allow them to sit in the silence of being ignored. This tactic fractures people in two fundamental ways. First, they realize you didn't even consider them worthy of a response. Second, left alone with their thoughts, they spin narratives, usually unraveling their own composure. Why? Because most people depend on emotional validation, even in conflict. Remove that validation, and they falter, they spiral, they post more, seek allies, bait for a reaction. With each desperate attempt, they appear weaker, more obsessed, more unhinged, while you remain perfectly still. Victory here isn't about proving a point. It's about watching them destroy themselves in the pursuit of your attention. Trick 3. Deflect. Don't defend. Now the elite move. Don't defend when attacked. Instead, turn the accusation into a reflection of their own insecurity. If someone calls you arrogant, observe how strange it is that confidence unsettles them. If they say you're manipulative, note that only those who can't be influenced resort to such labels. Accused of being fake, point out that's what people say when they stop getting what they want. You're not denying the charge, you're exposing it as their weakness. Now they're the ones scrambling, justifying on the defensive. This isn't just a reversal, it's a power judo throw, using their own force to orchestrate their collapse. Machiavelli would call this the turn of the blade. Don't meet the sword with a shield. Let the attacker fall on his own weapon. Society tells you to defend your reputation, to explain yourself, to seek vindication. But Machiavelli saw the trap. The moment you chase innocence, you imply guilt. The true strategist never plays that game. Instead, he remains too composed to be shaken, too elevated to care, too self-assured to explain. Gradually, those who try to attack him begin to look unstable, reactive, envious, weak. The more you defend, the more you appear to need to. The more you ignore, the more others assume you're dangerous. And it's that assumption, not proof, not explanation, where real power is born. Most believe power is about proving yourself, proving you're right, proving you're not what they say, proving you're better than their perception. Machiavelli would smirk at this. The moment you strive to prove anything, you've already conceded the validity of their judgment. True power lies in rendering their opinion irrelevant. By your silence, your absence, your unshakable calm. When you hand someone that validation, when you scramble to explain, smile anxiously, or respond to a public jab, you've just handed them your leash. Let's set the scene. You're in a group, a dinner table, a meeting. Someone takes a shot. You always act like you know everything. Or, oh, he's always like this. I guess being humble isn't your thing. Most people tense up. They might awkwardly laugh it off, or worse, rush to clarify, smooth things over. But in doing so, they confirm that a hit has landed. Now everyone's watching the defense. And that alone makes the original jab seem true. Here's the Machiavellian pivot. Pause, hold silence for 2 deliberate seconds. Scan the room, not with aggression but with quiet amusement. Then if you speak at all, make it calm, precise, and dismissive. You seem emotional today. Or interesting take. Or simply nothing, just a long, still gaze. What happens next? The attacker shifts. They fidget. They look for backup. They try to explain their joke. Suddenly the heat of the room is on. Your lack of reaction just broadcast a message louder than words. You are not the one under judgment. They are. In the digital arena, this escalates even faster. Comments, posts, callouts, DMs, people baiting you to react. Here's the truth Machiavelli would burn into your mind. In the court of public opinion, silence looks like guilt, unless your silence commands fear. So here's the tactic. When attacked online, don't defend, don't explain, just don't address the claim. Redirect the energy back into the crowd. Example: someone says you're toxic or manipulative. Instead of a tearful defense or long clarification, you post, people always call you dangerous when they can't control you. What just happened? You didn't defend. You reframed the accusation as a badge of power. Suddenly they look bitter. You look unshaken. The audience starts questioning who's really in control. That's not damage control. That's frame control. This approach isn't about proving you're innocent. It's about shifting the balance of perception, making your silence or minimal response a weapon. When you refuse to play by their rules, you force the crowd to question the attacker, not you. That's the essence of Machiavellian power. Make them over-explain. Make them look desperate. Let their own energy turn against them. And in every arena, from the boardroom to the inbox, the person who controls the frame controls the game. Narrative dominance isn't about arguing your case. It's about controlling the psychological terrain so completely that your detractors undermine themselves. To achieve this, you have 3 surgical tools at your disposal, each sharper and more effective than mere self-defense. Silence, the default, the coldest, the most powerful. When you say nothing, you leave the accuser exposed, and the crowd questioning not you but them. Silence isn't passive. It's a statement of contempt, a refusal to play their game. Deflection, reframe the narrative without acknowledging the jab. Don't accept their frame, create your own. Redirect the energy, so the focus shifts from your alleged fault to their motivation or insecurity. Precision cuts, short, sharp truths that end the game immediately. These aren't denials, they're status assertions. They signal not that you're innocent, but that you're untouchable. These responses don't say, "I'm not guilty." They say, "You can't touch me." That's the core of Machiavellian power. Never beg to be seen as good. Dare them to see you as bad, and let your unshaken demeanor amplify their unease. When you refuse to defend yourself, something remarkable happens. Your enemies, expecting a battle, find themselves swinging at smoke. Frustrated, they escalate. They push harder, become more dramatic, expose their insecurity, all while you rise in the eyes of observers. You've made them perform their own collapse. The Machiavellian endgame isn't to destroy your enemies. It's to let their obsession with you destroy them. Trick 4. Controlled stillness. Unshaken presence. Being misunderstood isn't dangerous. Being predictable is. The misunderstood man has mystery. The predictable man is easy to manipulate. Those who constantly clarify, explain, or justify are seen as desperate. Those who remain calmly misunderstood are feared. Machiavelli knew this. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. But even more, it's better to be confusing than predictable. The confused man hesitates, he watches. He doesn't act rashly. That's how you control the field. Crush the final illusion. You don't need a good reputation to win. You need a strong one. The man with a good reputation is expected to be clean, soft, agreeable. The man with a strong reputation isn't always liked or trusted, but no one dares move against him casually. His presence alone commands caution. That's narrative dominance. That's power. The aura of unbothered power, beyond defense, beyond explanation. When you stop defending yourself, your reputation ceases to be defined by what people think of you. It's defined by what they fear you might do next. This is the essence of flipping social and psychological power. You abandon the exhausting pursuit of approval, and instead cultivate an aura, a presence, so composed, so self-assured, that even your silence feels deliberate and calculated. Every move you don't make becomes a question mark in the minds of others. Your inaction is read as action. Your calm is interpreted as confidence, bordering on menace. The final evolution, aura over silence. The ultimate stage isn't mere silence. It's aura, a presence that radiates such security, such distance from petty conflict, that accusations dissolve before they ever land. This doesn't stem from emotional detachment or numbness. It comes from choosing not to be ruffled, not to be drawn into the fray. When you train yourself not to defend, not to explain, and not to seek validation, you cross a threshold. Your very existence becomes your defense. Power, at this stage, is effortless, because it's self-sustained. Consider those rare individuals who never explain themselves. No long-winded posts, no public rebuttals, no desperate clarifications. Yet they command respect, even fascination. Why? Because their silence in the face of accusation creates myth. The human mind abhors a vacuum. In the absence of explanation, it invents strength. People assume you must be dangerous, must know something they don't, must be so secure that you're untouchable. That assumption, not your protestations, is what compels others to follow you. The paradox of explaining yourself. Here's the paradox. The more you explain yourself, the lonelier you appear. When you rush to clarify, to justify, to defend, you signal neediness. No one feels compelled to step in on your behalf. You're already doing the work for them. But if you stand silent, unshaken, others begin to feel protective. They question the fairness of the attack. That was uncalled for. He didn't deserve that. Why are you still pushing? He didn't even respond. Suddenly, they become your shield. There's no greater power than having others defend you, without being asked. Control through perception, not proclamation. This approach is deeply Machiavellian. It's not about being good in the eyes of others. It's about being in control of perception. Even when surrounded by lies or misunderstanding, the person who never defends is always the architect of their own image. They let silence and presence do the heavy lifting, turning ambiguity into strength, and others' need for validation into their own leverage. Trick 5. Live in definition, not defense. The psychological mechanism. People reveal themselves not just in what they say, but in how they respond or don't respond to challenge. Emotional resilience, as Jung explored, isn't about suppressing emotion, but about mastering its display and impact. When you're unbothered by design, your psychological energy becomes a force field, subtly influencing every social interaction. You're not just ignoring attacks, you're redefining the rules of engagement, forcing others to exert themselves while you remain still. The bottom line: power isn't taken, it's ceded. The moment you stop defending yourself, you invite others to project their assumptions, their fears, their respect onto you. You create a vacuum of understanding that others rush to fill, often amplifying your authority in the process. And in that vacuum, you're no longer a participant in their game. You're the one who wrote the rules. This is the art of effortless power, not by force, not by argument, but by the sheer unshakable aura of being unbothered. This passage articulates a sophisticated Machiavellian approach to influence, leveraged through stillness, restraint, and deliberate ambiguity. Here's a polished, strategic rewrite that preserves your philosophical edge while sharpening the language for maximum impact. Machiavellian leverage is letting the crowd argue your case while you remain above the fray. It's not just respect you gain. You're elevated. This kind of status isn't claimed overnight. It's built stone by acting with restraint, choosing stillness over reaction, revealing only what's necessary, and never over-explaining. Begin here. Refuse to correct insults meant to provoke. Let them hang in the air. Let them echo. Your silence signals that the attack didn't even register. It's beneath your notice. When faced with indirect shots, respond not with offense but with calm confusion. Is that how you see it? Delivered with total serenity. This drains the emotional energy from their jab, leaving them exposed. Use short closing phrases. Noted. Okay. Think what you like. Time will tell to shut down debate. Each one is a door closed, a scene ended. Obsess the details. Your face, your posture, your gaze. The Machiavellian never twitches, flinches, or tenses. Stillness is armor. The calmer you remain while others lose control, the more your power grows in silence. When people can't provoke you, they begin to fear you, not because you're erratic, but because you're unreadable. You become a mirror, reflecting their instability back at them. As Machiavelli would say, the most dangerous man isn't the one who attacks first. It's the one who never needs to. Eventually the attacks stop, not because you fought them off, but because everyone knows they'll lose before they start. Your presence says, I don't play defense. I let others destroy themselves trying to reach me. There's a crucial difference between strength and immunity. Strength may fight back, but it still reacts, still flinches, still feels the hit. Immunity doesn't even acknowledge the attack. That's the true Machiavellian ideal. Master this, and power becomes effortless. Not by force but by presence. You don't win the argument. You end it before it even starts by never needing to answer it. When you stop defending yourself, people no longer see you as someone who must justify his actions, whose character is up for debate, or who needs to be put on trial. You're not on their level. You've moved beyond the petty court of public approval. The only judgment that matters now is your own. From this point on, you don't live in defense. You live in definition. You define your image. You define your tone. You define your silence. And people feel, they sense the certainty in your eyes, the calmness in your posture, the danger in your quiet. You're not resisting the world anymore. You're commanding it. That's when the room shifts. The crowd speaks less. Your enemies grow quiet. Your name carries weight, not because you fought for it, but because you never explained it. Never defending yourself doesn't mean never speaking. It means speaking only when it shifts the balance of power. When you do speak, let it feel like a move, not a reaction. Every word should be a calculated act, not a desperate plea. Every time you refuse to explain yourself, every time you stand still while the world flails for your validation, you become the one thing they can't control. A man who answers to no one. This is the essence of unshakable presence. The intersection of silence, self-possession and strategic engagement, rooted in both Machiavellian realism and Jung's insight into emotional resilience. The truly formidable man isn't merely strong, he's immune. He doesn't play the game. He rewrites the rules by refusing to enter the arena.